You're very welcome to the Woman to Woman show here on Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel with me, Roisin Chleirigh. We are continuing our series of gut health for women. In this video, we are going to focus on gut health for postmenopausal women over the age of 55 and plus. I am joined once again by Ireland's most popular and favourite lifestyle medical doctor, Dr. AnnMaire Eustace Ryan. Dr. Eustace Ryan is also the author of the children's book, Microbiomes, the Bug of War children's book for healthy eating. I'll leave a link below to all our previous interviews and a link to Dr. Eustace Ryan's contact and social media details in the description box below. In this video for gut health for women over 55s, we will discuss how to keep your gut health healthy as you age. What are the signs of poor functioning digestive system? How do we clean our gut? What are the health conditions that could be linked to poor gut health? And ways to improve our gut health as we age. Dr. AnnMaire Eustace Ryan, you're very, very welcome back to Competent Women Ireland's YouTube channel.
Thank you, Roisin, for inviting me. Delighted. Thank you.
Well, AnnMaire, we always get such a good feedback when we have you on, and you give so much really amazing advice, and it is your job as well. I can't say that word, pronounce it, gastro.
Gastroenterologist, but I just say gut health doctor. Roisin is simpler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easier for me to pronounce.
Yeah, exactly. Gut health doctor, exactly. And anyway, I mainly scope now anyway. I don't look after people with inflammatory bowel disease or anything. I only scope. So I am really just a gut health doctor now.
So, Dr. AnnMaire, in our previous interviews, we talked about gut health for children. We talked about gut health for women, but we're actually going into a little bit more detail now the last one was more about postmenopause, women in the menopause. So this is
Yes.
where we're going through women over 55, and as we age gracefully and delightfully and happily, and going into our wonderful years of postmenopause, after our body has gone through all the turmoil of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, our body starts to settle down again. And
Thank God.
thank God, yeah. And we start then to prepare our body as we mature in age to from our 55s to our 60s and 70s and beyond. So talk to us about that.
Well, you see, the same rules apply right through your life, really. They don't really change terribly. It's just that around the menopause is very difficult for women. And after it could be almost seen as a sad time because you've kind of accepted now you'll not have any more babies, and that maybe you're kind of becoming a little bit invisible. You're not a young woman anymore, and it's a little bit difficult of an age to be at. But I've been through it at the other end of it a long time,
Like
and
myself.
and every age has its advantages and disadvantages. So I think it's the same rules apply. So I would be really thinking around this time of longevity and cognitive enhancement, really, because you're through the menopause, please God. It is a dangerous enough time, the 50s, for a woman. They're trying to get things that they may not have had before, but they get through all that. And you're looking forward now, all things being equal in Ireland now, to another 30 to 40 years, actually.
Yeah.
And some people would say, oh, well, sure, look at now, I've done everything wrong now and I'm 58, so there's absolutely no point in changing now. But you know what? There's every point in changing. And there is not one day that's too late until you're in the coffin. And then it's too late, but not till then. So, the same rules apply. I mean, right through the lifestyle. So I'm talking about a plant predominant diet, and I'll go back with that. I'm talking about a moderate amount of exercise. I'm talking about reducing stress in so much as you can, be it going into nature or doing your bit of exercise or meeting friends, your sociability, all those things, and your sleep, absolutely central. And all of those things are hugely important as you head into your 60s and 70s and 80s, indeed.
And so talk to us too about, our gut. How do we keep it? So we talked about healthy. Something that you
Mm.
said there is really important, isn't it? Is when we have the right diet, as you said, a lot of people go to a more plant diet, and I was never a great meat eater, but I always had a little bit on the plate. I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but
Yeah, me either.
my vegetables. We were always brought up, eat your vegetables and eat what's in season and fresh from your local
Yeah.
producers. But it's also about that gut health. It's also, as you meant, the cognitive. It's because every thought that we have in our cognitive health, every thought that we have has a word, language, and the vocabulary has a I'm talking about coaching now, has a
Yeah.
chemical biological reaction throughout our body. So there's a massive connection between our mindset and our brain to our digestive system. And some people say our stomach, our digestive system is our brain.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's the second brain anyway. And, the enteric nervous system is based right around the gut, the large bowel. And the motorway then, that is the vagus nerve, goes from the gut to the brain and vice versa, more to the brain than vice versa. So all very, very, very important. And you're in you can kind of, young people are inclined to play kamikaze with their health, Roisin. Okay, you think in your 20s and 30s nothing's ever going to happen to you, and that's why so many of them get killed in car crashes, etc., etc. But they also play havoc with their future health. And though I say there's never too late a day to start, it actually is, actually quite imperative to stave off the middle-aged illnesses, if you can at all, by starting in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. It definitely is. But the cognitive part of it is really, really interesting. There recent meta-analysis of all the studies in the world done on Alzheimer's disease, of which there were hundreds of thousands of them. And, like 3/4 of people that get Alzheimer's or dementia, I'll use the term loosely, are women. And that is worrying. Okay. Now, there's a huge crossover with all sorts of things like your senses, everything like that. But in the middle of it all is the illnesses which are ubiquitous in Ireland now, namely type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, that is high blood pressure. They are central in everything. And I'd often say to people, I'd love you to walk a day in my shoes and see what I face when I scope. People that are just have neglected their health all the years. They may have, heaven forbid, a cancer, but more than likely they haven't. They just have all the other things. So they've type 2 diabetes, they've autoimmune illnesses, they've got high blood pressure. And it is awfully sad, because if I had got my hands on them, loosely, 15 years before, they never got those. But they're appearing to me after the horse is firmly bolted, and nobody has ever sat them down and say, do you realize, like, that every ounce you are overweight, for instance, causes oxidative stress in your body? That your sugar cravings, they can be sorted. That is not difficult if you eat a certain way and live a certain way. And people say, oh, doctor, I can't understand I'm not losing weight because I take loads of exercise. The only way you will lose weight is to not eat as much and to eat a bit differently. You can take all the exercise in the world, you won't lose an ounce unless you eat differently and eat less. And that's the way it is. Now, there is a point that people, and there are people from a bigger build of a family, we don't have to be skinamalinks, I'm not saying that, but there is a set weight that you should be. And if you're over that, it's much more difficult to manage. And, it's just a difficult situation in Ireland now, as you know. We only have to look at around us on the streets and see how difficult people are finding life. And when you do get to a certain weight, it's very, very hard to see any change. So you change your ways, but it's very disheartening because the change is so slow, you know.
I can understand that because
Mm.
I put on weight. I used to be really, really thin, and I put on weight during my midlife and menopause. And I'm now going to the gym, trying to get movement and exercise. However, it's still, I can completely understand. I'm losing weight, but it's around my belly. Is it visceral fat? It's
Yes,
called.
yes, yes.
I can't get rid of that.
Yeah. Very hard to. It's very, very difficult to. And you know, it's not the worst thing in the world. And if you are fit and you're sleeping and you're eating well, you know, the bit of weight around your tummy, it is so common. But it is ideal not to have it because the visceral fat is the dangerous fat, unfortunately. So, you know, it's very, very difficult. I think we've all been kind of fooled by industry about from the pharmacological industry, from the food industry. Um, I just think things are not so good. And I heard somebody on the radio that was saying, you know, isn't it terrible the Americans are so heavy? And somebody said to them, there's absolutely no difference now between the Americans and us, the Europeans. And I mean, I don't mean just the Irish, the
Yeah.
British. They're not European, but they were. We're all the same. You know, maybe France, not so bad, but the rest, yeah, very bad.
So to keep the gut, part of the keeping our gut healthy is exercise and our diet, and you have to have the balance between the two.
Absolutely, a balance in anything, balance in your nutrients, a balance in your life. Like you know, a lot of people wrote very hard on themselves, particularly women. You know, we've all of our vintage that are now in our 60s, say 50s, 60s. We were brought up in kind of hard times in Ireland, would we say? The Catholic Church having huge sway. I have no difficulty with the Catholic Church. I'm a working Catholic myself, but it was very, very difficult times. And our parents, like, they were wonderful, but they didn't really, really get it. A lot of them, I think, as maybe they don't anymore still, but they certainly didn't then. And you know, you're hugely formed by the time you're about 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I think some of us weren't brought up really to value ourselves very much. We kind of thought we were not good enough, maybe a bit of a nuisance, maybe not a great person. And we found that very hard to stave off during our lives, you know. So I think the children now are much more assertive. It's an interesting change. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but they certainly speak up much more than I would have done at that age. You too, I would have said probably. So yeah, it's just women, particularly women, find that they take an awful lot on. Everybody's problems, their own included. And I think it's very important for them to have time out and to have a bit of something to that's there, they do what they want. And
Yes.
they're very unselfish. They need to be more selfish, actually.
Absolutely, because we're so busy looking after everybody else
Yeah.
in the house. And I know that, my children are growing up and your children are growing up. And my daughter's in Melbourne. My son is in the Defence Forces. He's away training from now until May. So he's away Monday to Friday. My daughter has her cash here in my son's house. So it takes me about an hour and a half every day to go out and check his house and feed my daughter's cat. And I said, they're 33 and 28, and I'm still running after them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all like that. And of
Yeah,
course, you like doing it as a labor of love. And, you know, but at the same time, we are a little bit maybe put upon. And I think when we get to this stage and you're not actively rearing children, you're not actively doing all the washing, you certainly don't have to go to football matches or drive to after school music lessons so much anymore. It's time for us to do something for ourselves. And
yes,
it's lovely to see people taking on hobby like music or art or whatever it is, isn't it? It's
yes.
just wonderful, you know?
And taking on them hobbies also reduces stress because
Yes,
I've read an awful lot, and I know from my own life, Dr. Eustace Ryan, that stress can affect our digestive system, can't it? So taking on
you.
those hobbies is actually helping the digestive system.
Yes, it does because it helps to distract you and it helps to use the creative part of your brain, which is the conscious part of your brain, which is what you want. Because 90% of the time we're in our subconscious, in fact, 95%, I'd say, in our subconscious brain on what we call autopilot. And we need to switch off of that and be aware of our thoughts. Our thoughts are awfully important. And we
Wow.
can beat ourselves up in our heads, and you just have to try to stop yourself, you know? And all of that is easier if you eat properly because it kind of shows for a start that you love yourself And you have to love yourself first before you love anyone else. You have to love yourself. So if you love yourself, then you're going to look after yourself, aren't you? You're going to feed your body the way your body wants to be fed. So that's the start of it. But there is a cart and horse situation, because as you eat better, feel better, look better, perhaps move better, it's a nice kind of happy circle. You'll kind of find that it's much easier to have clearer thought and not be so dwelling on your subconscious and the things that are going on and on in your head. You kind of find you've got control of your body and your thoughts and your life far better. I certainly would think that anyway. And I know myself, if I eat wrong, which is rare, but I know myself, I feel uneasy, not as happy, um,
Yes.
and not as inclined to be good to myself, because I'm quite good to myself. I got to the stage now, I'm quite good to myself.
I'm learning that now. That's
Yeah.
something I'm learning. And like I was always an outdoor person, but now I'm going to the gym, and I'm finding even when I'm tired, I'm going to the gym and I go, oh, I don't want to do this. But when I come out, energy cells produce energy cells, and you feel psychologically much better.
Oh, you feel wonderful because the oxytocin comes out and makes you feel absolutely wonderful, and you feel so satisfied that you've actually done something. So terrific. Fair dues to you. I actually dislike the gyms
Yeah.
intensely. So I'm trying to devise like a little workout at home that I do, and I walk a bit and I jog a bit. But the gym, you're great to do that, because that's wonderful if you can bring yourself to do it. Fair dues to you.
That was a completely new concept for me, is going from being an outdoor person into the gym.
Yeah,
And
good. That's
that
good.
took time to get into that new behavior habit of going into the gym instead of going out for a walk, going out to
Okay.
nature. But
Yeah.
I had the back injury, so I can't a nerve damage down to my feet, so I can't go for long walks sort of habit.
Okay. Yeah,
So
so it's what worked for you, and sure, that's wonderful. But often those habits, Roisin, if you can pin them to another habit,
yes,
I've kind of that's the way I remind myself to do something. When the kettle is boiling, I go out and I do my kind of little workout with on your tippy toes on the first step, and up and down, up and down. So that stretch your calves, or the various things. And I try to link it with that, and say when I wake up in the morning now, I try to just start my day by sitting on the edge of my bed. And I initially would say 2 minutes. I just try to do my breathing, because once I start, then I'm clockwork bunny. I'm like Duracell bunny, the way I go, and working Clonmel, etc. But I try to do this. I sit for 2 minutes at the end of my bed and concentrate on my breathing, and think then, as you can gan about your feet, your legs, your body, your breathing, your heart, your head, and then try to be grateful. If you can start the day in a good frame of mind like that, if you can be grateful, thankful, we're not waking up in the Gaza Strip. We actually woke up. A lot of people don't. And if you can, it's so important. Gratitude, actually, and you really, really appreciate it as you get older, because even though we've all had hardship, none of us have had an easy time. By God, compared to some people, we're very, very, very lucky. And I think gratitude, if you start the day in gratitude and in positive ways and positive thinking, you change your whole day. You
yeah.
roll out of bed in a bad form and say, oh my God, I have to go to work again and I hate this. Everything is lost for the day, isn't it? I just think it's so important. And what I'd say to people is, working at around 55, 60, 62, if they're not happy in their job, they should leave. They
Yeah.
should. There's ways and means of doing something different. I hate to think that somebody would be rolling out of bed saying, I really, F my life, I don't want this, and I don't stop it. Don't do it anymore. Do something different. There's always something. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. You
Yeah.
stay in the same old circle of things, I think.
They say that there's science to back it up, and research to back it up. A lot of women in their midlife either change careers or they
Really?
go back to education, they start different hobbies, and that can really have that psychological effect on their digestive system because they're learning something new as well.
Yeah.
And that has a psychological effect on the mindset.
Oh, totally, because your cognition, like it's very, very important to work in your cognition and to challenge yourself somewhat, I mean, exercise is challenging yourself and learning something new is challenging yourself. So it's very, very important to do that, put yourself out of your comfort zone. So changing career, changing job, changing office, changing routine, like we're much more likely to leave things the way they are. Our brains are way more wired to resist change than to accept it, that, and it'll always resist something that's a little bit uneasy about, and you have to push yourself to actually do it. Mind kind of mastery over your mind. It's extraordinary science. I'm learning a lot about it because I'm running a course now with a friend of mine, teaching this kind of stuff, positive living, positive thinking. So we're starting next month. Yeah. So I'm really into that as well, because I just think it's so tied up with gut health.
Yeah, I do. And I'm a mindset coach. So that's where I concentrate on, is it the mindset,
Yep.
the language, the vocabulary, and even how the chemical biological reactions within and frequencies within the body. And, even down to, as you're talking about getting out in the bed in the morning, sometimes then you mentioned you go down at the bottom of the bed, sometimes doing a body scan of your body, and also checking in and doing a mindset scan with what are your thoughts, what are you thinking, why are you thinking that thought, and what effects has it on. And I also say I go from positive thinking to proactive thinking.
Very good. That's very good. That's
Yeah,
so exciting. You see,
yeah,
the developments in neuroscience have proven now with scanners that you can actually change your brain. You don't change your 86 billion neurons so much as you change your connections. The
yes,
connections matter, and they're what you want, new connections. That's what anything new will do to you.
yes.
It's give you new connections, neuroplasticity, where the brain can change according to environment. So that's all so important. And it's a fascinating science. And that's what the neuroscientists are telling us now,
Yeah.
that you can actually change up your brain waves and your brain matter. It can actually look better and thicker if you're doing something that's more challenging for you, along with obviously living and eating well. Yeah.
That's really interesting that the brain shows that on a
Yes,
scan. That's
it does.
really interesting.
And it's fascinating science, and there's loads and loads of people doing neuroscience now. In fact, a lot of the medical students that come in from mature entry, particularly the Canadian ones, it's neuroscience they've studied prior, which is interesting. So it's a very fascinating science, but there's amazing research being done on brain scanners now. I mean,
Right.
just fast. And, we're only at the tip of the iceberg yet.
Yes.
And there's lots more to come, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza always talks about how about scans and doing and about the thoughts and the emotions, because your thoughts can change your emotions. So and that will have change the the feelings that is happening in your gut and the way that your gut responds to your emotions and to your thoughts.
Yeah, your gut feeling too.
Yeah.
People don't value the gut feeling enough. It's very
Mm.
important, actually. So it's a hugely influential science, and the gut, along with making all the neurotransmitters that help those connections to happen, it also kind of protects the entire body from pathogens, from the immune system getting kicked off by the leaky gut, with the gut not kind of working as well as it can, and then you've got a leaky gut, and it's extraordinary what happens. A lot of our serotonin is made in our gut, our oxytocin, dopamine, and it's fascinating how it works. It really, really is. It's all tied up, and we're kind of very much all an ecosystem. Everything just works in together. And I just love this whole concept, with thoughts. And you'd say, yeah, like, is it familiar or is it correct? Is it just that you're used to thinking that way, or
Yes.
is this the correct way? Because you can fail to be great in your life if you're always falling back into the same habits and the same mindset. So yeah, that's my newest thing anyway, tying in with the gut. It's the mind and the brain.
I've always been fascinated because I studied, I'm a coach since 2007 and then NLP in 2008. So I've
Okay.
always connected the mind-body connection. And
Yeah.
and I've always held my stress in my gut. So I
Yeah.
always knew that. So I started practicing and becoming self-aware. How was my gut health the day when I was having bad, let's say, negative self-limiting self-talk? And then
Yeah.
when I instantly changed my thoughts, changed the language and vocabulary of my self-talk, and that changed my tone of voice, which therefore changed the feeling in my body at a cellular level,
It's extraordinary.
isn't it?
It's extraordinary. So there's even studies done, if I can remember exactly, what was it? Yes, I think it was, did you read this one of practicing scales on the piano?
Yeah,
Um, the people were either doing it real with the piano, or they were imagining it. They were
yeah,
practicing the scales. And the bit of the brain that this would connect with to kind of mature and kind of get bigger because you're musical and that's coming from that area. It was exactly the same in the people who practiced in their mind as the people who actually practiced on the piano. Because it's this extraordinary science. You,
it's the same with visualization.
yeah,
If you visualize it, and you can see it, you can feel it, and the same. If you do it, it becomes a habit and becomes real. If you can imagine your body changing, and it happens at a cellular level, that the
yeah,
frequencies and the vibrations of the thought affects the body. And if you practice, research was done with in NASA with
yeah.
scientists, with athletes, if they visualize themselves performing in a sport, in a competition, in a visualization, they actually became better at the skills and techniques within the sport.
It's absolutely extraordinary. And it's kind of quantum physics, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of this quantum theory that is out there in the ether. All you have to do is harness it. And that's where manifestation and say having the action board,
yes,
not so much the vision board as the action board, and you have it beside your bed, and this is the last thing you see at night going to bed. Because, if you want to, it's not so much what you want as what you need, maybe. But, if you want to have lots of money, which wouldn't necessarily be the best thing to be always looking for, but you'd kind of think of a sum, and maybe you'd like a nice new car, or you'd like something, and you put pictures of it and you print them into your head. I think positive thinking is absolutely extraordinary. I think,
I like positive thinking, but over the years I kept saying, well, positive thinking and affirmations, everyone was talking about them, and I thought, well, especially in exams and everything. So then I changed it. I went, well, something didn't sit right with me. So then I changed it. Okay, positive thinking and proactive thinking with action. So
yeah,
you have the visualization.
say, well, I want to kind of have, 100,000 in my bank account now. And then you sit at home and sit out in your garden, listen to the birds. We're not going to. So you have to, of course, work towards things. But
Yeah,
it is a fascinating science, I think.
I
And
love it. I love it. We
as
could sit here and
I,
talk all day about that. I told Dawn.
we find a time to think of these things
Yeah,
now. And, I didn't think of it young because you're too busy
yeah,
rearing children and going to football matches and making school lunches and everything. We have a bit time now to kind of think, well, this is it. This is me. And am I happy?
yeah.
Yeah. Happiness, I think it's overbanded. Am I content with my lot? And
And
if not,
fulfilled.
maybe I
Yeah.
should change things up. Nothing changes, nothing changes. It's so, so true.
Well, that time we talked about what we've talked about the cognitive, especially, and that was really important because I totally believe in that. But so you talked about leaky gut. How do we sort of feel and see the signs of a poor functioning digestive system?
Well, they're absolutely myriad because, like, from the digestive system itself, you might have bloating, you might have diarrhea or constipation, you might be just feeling a bit sick and just not feeling well. So that would be that. But also, like the brain fog. very, very common symptom. Anxiety, depression. Um, there's just so many symptoms of the poor because your gut basically runs you. So you're just not feeling any energy, feeling unwell. And it obviously can be something what we call pathological, which is something going wrong with you, and you would have to go to see your doctor. But if you're not eating well, and what I mean eating well is eating enough good food and in fiber to feed your microbiome. That's really the nuts and the bolts of it all. I talked to you before about this.
Yeah.
The microbiome of your bowel, of your large bowel, run our system. So, and they eat fiber. They love fiber. So everything that is plant based. So all the plants, all the fruit, the vegetables, the nuts, the seeds, the herbs, the spices, the ferments, the grains, the whole grains, the beans, the legumes, all of those foods absolutely nourish the microbiome. And an awful lot of people are absolutely obsessed with protein. It drives me mad. There's protein yogurts, protein drinks, protein shakes, protein bars. And there's not a person probably in Ireland is in any way deficient in protein, may I tell you. But we're almost all deficient in fiber. And that's what we need to eat.
More fiber. And what I'll do is I'll put the link to our interview into the microbiome in the description box.
Yeah, great. Yeah, because the microbiome is fascinating. Trillion, mainly bacteria residing in your bowel.
Yeah.
Everybody's is different, and everybody's likes different things. You can't just say the whole thing. That's why I'd say to people that I encourage to eat the way I'm asking them. Keep a food diary, because not everything is going to suit you. And some things will still bloat you, even though, but you know, Dr. Will Bullswitch, who is the American director of Zoe, he would say that any of those dyspeptic kind of indigestion, bloating symptoms like of an unhealthy, unhappy bowel are a dysbiosis, and they're almost always the microbiome not being happy or happily fed or happily looked after or nourished. And there is always a way. And, you know, bring it right back down to basics with your diet and being religious about it. You know, every single bite you put in your mouth. And there are certain things, Roisin, that are extremely bad for the microbiome, namely processed red meat and alcohol, right? So a share of people would still have them on a regular basis. And they're like, alcohol is a neurotoxin, which is toxic to the brain, as well as being a carcinogen. Cancer causing, primary cancer causing. So are the processed red meat. So you're talking about salami, sausages, chorizo, all those things. So like the people can just try to stop eating these things at least. That's going to help them anyway. And there's the sugar rush that we're all on with the soft drinks and the ice creams and the bars and the biscuits. And I eat them myself. It's all very fine, but in a very small moderation. And children nowadays have them more or less daily as a treat. But when I was growing up, we had them every Sunday only.
Yeah, we had them on a Sunday too.
And that's all the sweets we had. It wouldn't even occur to us. And we never had soft drinks except at Christmas. And now we're surrounded, as you well know, by food porn. So, you know, everywhere you go, there's all those soft drinks. There's all the bars, all the protein bars, all the protein yogurts, everything. And there's the good and the bad and the absolute ugly in food. Of course there is. But there's a lot of things that we're eating that aren't suitable, aren't nourishing us, and most certainly are not nourishing our microbiome. And it's very easy to do it, actually. It's very easy to nourish it. You know, 80% of the time, if you can eat well to nourish your microbiome, the rest looks after itself, you know?
Yeah. I really learned a lot from you by talking about it, and I'm always amazed now. But the microbiome's all working away like little factory workers and little tanks in the body.
All happy out the door, and you know they say then people say, "Oh, I eat fibre and I'm going to be blowing off like farting." Sorry, but that's the sign that the microbiome are happy out the door. They're having an old party down there.
Oh.
They're delighted with themselves, yeah.
So I never knew that. So if I'm farting, my microbiomes are happy.
They're happy. They're happy. Maybe the people around you aren't, but they are.
I remember that one. So going on now, so we're talking about microbiomes and keeping them happy, and that really brings me on lovely onto my next question. How do we clean out our gut?
Well, do you know what? Like, there's the physical way of cleaning out your gut, which is kind of taking the bowel prep. You can take the bowel prep and be completely clean, like the people that I scope. But in a realistic way, Roisin, I don't in any way agree, by the way, with this. The what is it called now? Where you're washed out from the bottom. What's that called? The
um,
fancy clinics,
oh,
Levan,
I had it in my head a minute ago. Now
yeah,
I've forgotten. Yeah.
colonic irrigation.
Yes. No, I wasn't like that.
I don't, that's not good. That hasn't
No.
proven any good. So physically moving everything out of your gut with water from the top or the bottom, and from the top may be necessary before you have a scope, say. So that's all very fine. Other than that, how you clean out your gut, I mean, there's no hard and fast rules. What it would be is just to absolutely drink your share of water, which we all should, about 6 glasses a day, about 2 to 3 liters, which I have to confess I don't. A lot of it would be incorporated in tea and coffee. I might get to a little bit halfway there with them. But it's just eating a proper diet. You can do a detox and all that. And, if you have a bad diet and you are a drinker and you do eat fast food, or you have, what is it, that fellow I heard interviewed recently, he had the window diet. The window diet was that he was going from the window of McDonald's to the window of Supermax, if you understand, and his food has been handed out the window to him. So if you eat all like that, well, then if you go kind of cold turkey and start eating all the stuff I've talked about, plus drinking your water, well, that will clean out your gut very nicely. And there's no need to be cleaning out your gut, because don't forget, if you clean out your gut, you clean out a lot of the microbiome also. And a lot of them can be passed away, and you don't really want them going. It's very fine when you have a bowel prep and you have to have it for your thing. But don't get obsessed with completely clearing out your bowel at any stage. It's not necessary, and it mightn't necessarily be the good thing for you anyway. Do you know?
What I would do is this is good. Is I take lemon and water,
Yeah.
lemon and lime and water.
They're a great mixture.
Yeah.
And that's lovely Nancy Burswhistle. And she made something with the root ginger, which
Yes.
I kept, and I bought the root ginger and all. Now I can't remember what I'm supposed to do with it. But she would have combined root ginger with other things. But all those things are super good. But they're only super good if you're doing other things well as well. There's no point in just doing that and then go down and having, 2 cans of Coke and a plastic ham sandwich for your lunch. So it's just all these kind of little small steps that you can do. I mean, what I'd always say to my patients, I have a thing at the end of because everything we do is generated on a computer, and I first recommendation and then second recommendation. And I'd say to them, have you a particular awakeness, as Pat Short would say, awakeness for something like, doctor, I love to have a packet of crisps at night, and you see they're lethal. I'm not saying you can never have them, but they're actually lethal. They're full of saturated fats. They're full of super processed, ultra processed food. They're full of salt, and they're terribly bad for you. And if you're menopausal, don't forget they will bloat you. Nothing surer. So I'd say to them, well, the first recommendation I say to you is try to just every second night only have your packet of crisps this week, and next week have one every 3 nights, and try to ease yourself off them. And it just works. And then I'll give them healthy alternatives. Or, they might say to me, oh, they're driving. I have a lot of people are driving for a living and they're in and out of the services. So I will try to just err. And there is healthy options now. There actually is.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Oh, there's salads and they're very good. You don't always have to have the breakfast roll. And if you love your breakfast roll, by all means, have one once a week, if that's what you really love. But no more than that, not every day.
It's about changing them behavior habits. I've noticed what my gut loves, and what regulates my gut is, and my bowels is, I make up turmeric, ginger, a little bit of red pepper, and a couple of other things, and I take a spoonful, just a little spoonful every morning.
So that's terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. That's gold dust for your microbiome. It absolutely loves it. So anything like that, like all those things, and you see all the foods you mentioned, they're all natural.
Yeah.
All those either grew in ground or grew in trees.
Yeah.
And the one other change I'm always saying to people to do, Roisin, is to try to substitute their oil for extra virgin olive oil. put extra virgin olive oil as their cooking oil, and also as their, even maybe to put on bread, and not have none other. So no crisp and dry, for instance. Just don't have it in the house. If you have a deep fat fryer, throw it out. Okay, just do not dream of deep fat frying anything. There's no need now anyway with air fryers and everything. So, like, there's always a recommendation I give, and just if they go off and do that, and I don't ever see them again, you see. So I have started this one-to-one shopping with people, which I absolutely love. So I go to wherever they live. I've been I was in Tralee the other day with the lady, and I meet her in the coffee shop. And I talked to her for about an hour and a half, 2 hours about her own habits, her own families, whatever the way they eat. And then I go shopping with her to wherever she usually shops. And I say, you know, I'd show her, I talked to her about the beans, I talked to her about putting in the pearl barley and lamb stew, and little tips like that that I found, if you can add little bits of fibre here and there, because what I want to do with people is to add things in, really. And I love that. So this is what a lot of my patients I suggest things to, but I don't really ever see them again because I only scope them. So I love this because I actually see them. And then after 3 months I go back and I see how they get on and troubleshoot, you know, and they keep their food diary, and they're going to be able to tell me. It's, you know, I'm only at the stage I'm seeing them the first time still. I haven't got to the 3 month stage. I only started that this year. See how they're getting on. Yeah.
I remember watching a video, and if I can find it, or if you have it, send it to me, and I'll put it in the link. I remember you did a cooking demonstration, just at your own, cooking your own dinner, and you were adding the spices in, and you said, this is adding in. This
Yeah.
is like adding in to your dinner, like all the spices and everything into the stew. That
Yeah.
that that was really good. And so I started doing that as well. And my son always did it. And I used to, God, it's spicy. But he loves doing all that. But I've started now adding in to my dinner. He said, that's
That's
the part.
Yeah, I mean, that's just brilliant. And that's really wonderful because that's adding, is given variety, and it's also given fibre.
Yeah,
And win-win, Roisin, is
yeah,
a perfect thing to do. And like beside my cooker, I have a number of things that I just put into everything. And say even my overnight oats, you'd see that on my story on Instagram, and there's any amount in it. You know. So it's you know, it's all to do. And look at our shops; they're absolutely superb. I mean, what can't you get now? I've
yeah,
been doing her shop in Dunn's in Tralee. Well, by God, is it some Dunn's? You never seen the like
yeah,
in your life. Lara's one here in Kilkenny is only trotting after it.
yes,
You know, and they've all the good brands of kind of like Dr. Hushka and Muju and all that kind of stuff there as well. As two coffee shops, and they have, you know, Sheridan's, that cheese, they're Galway based cheese company.
yes.
They're there as well with loads of all their products. It's fantastic, actually fantastic. Yeah, so maybe it'll come here. You never know.
Who knows? But so what I'm hearing from you is that's all what you're telling me today is what my grandmother and mother would have said to me in cooking. So it's like going back to basics, the way our grandparents and mothers used to cook.
Absolutely, going back and cooking from scratch if you can at all, and with the aid of some sauces if you really, really want to, but you can actually make up your own. So cooking from scratch every evening, nothing like it, you know. Very, very difficult to do, and I know that if you're busy and you know, if you can at all, cooking ahead. If you go to work in the morning and you know your dinner is ready for the evening, it's like having money in the bank, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It takes a huge discipline, but if you can do that at all, it's
Yeah. My
yeah,
son cooks a lot from scratch, which is
yeah.
impressing me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's brilliant. He loves cooking. So,
Yeah, brilliant.
going on now to my next question, and we've talked about, dementia earlier. What health conditions can be linked to a poor gut health?
Well, everything. I mean, that's what's absolutely unbelievable. Almost all of the cancers, okay, particularly obviously colonic, but they're now also saying pancreatic, breast, prostate, matter any of them. All the cancers, all the autoimmune illnesses, all of them. Depression and anxiety. Uh,
Really?
Unbelievable. Type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, which kills most people. All of them, because basically almost all of them start, and certainly the cardiovascular does, with an inflammation in the body. And that's what the inflammation comes from, that leaky gut I'm talking about, kicking off full body inflammation. And the inflammation is not only in the gut, the inflammation is in the little arterioles, which are your blood vessels. And that's then starts having the rough insides, and then things stick in them, and then you get heart disease. And it's just unbelievable, Roisin, how awfully important it is really to prevent ill health is to eat, to feed your gut. And then everything else kind of looks after itself. There's only very, very few things are irresolutely genetic. Okay, so you're 100% going to get it. If you stood in your head and did everything just right, you'll still get it.
Yeah.
Less than maybe 2% of things. 98 you can ward off by the way you live and eat. And if people just realise that, would be wonderful. Now, don't forget, you can do the world and all, but if you're super stressed with your life, you're in trouble to begin with. So that is one of the first things you'll have to start. But it is easier to deal with stress if your microbiome is intact, because then you won't have your leaky gut sending messages via the vagus nerve to your brain that all is not well, etc., etc. So it's a great way to start to kind of stop that vicious circle. But it's just incredibly important, incredibly important. And in all illnesses, almost all, there's absolutely hardly any that aren't in some way related. That's absolutely extraordinary. So,
And what I'm hearing you saying is if we nourish our gut
yeah,
with food, we're nourishing our health, and we're nourishing that relationship between the gut and the brain and
absolutely.
the rest of our whole body.
Everything. Self-love. You're looking after yourself. You're the important one. When you're sitting on the bed in the morning and you're thinking, this is me. This is me. This is the only me I'll ever have, or I'm only here for. And I
I think we lost you there, Anne-Marie.
use this word, but it is true. You can be a victim of your life.
I lost you
Yeah,
there.
I'd say you can be a victim.
Self-love. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear
I
me?
lost you there, Anne-Marie, when you started talking about self-love.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know anything. Anyway, I'm saying self-love, there's a lot of people that kind of feel that they're a victim of circumstances of life, of unfortunate events. Of course they do. But you have to try to get rid of that victim mentality and try to make the best of what you have. And if you sit on the bed every day, I do think it really gets your mind thinking and starting well. Start well, and then you kind of are better able to cope and maybe better able to nourish your body and say, today I'm going to do something. And they say kind of an interesting thing that each of us every day can do something to help people, to help one person, each of us, even if it is only smiling at somebody or complimenting their hair or whatever it is. It can make a hell of a difference to somebody.
Or
And
even letting somebody go before you at the supermarket checkout.
yeah.
If you know that they're in a hurry. I did that the other day. I could see that someone was walking around fast around the supermarket, and I was at the checkout just before them, and I looked at them. I said, "Would you like to go in front of me? You look like you're in a hurry." And they went, "Absolutely."
Yeah. And it costs so little, and it's lovely. Just one little kind gesture.
Yeah.
See, like people are basically kind, and most people are very, very good. There's only obviously the odd bad apple, and there will always be. So, I just think that little bit of mindfulness as well as your eating, it's all the one
It is.
sphere, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
We're coming to the top of the hour now, Dr. Eustace Ryan. One thing I'm really delighted, and I always get great inspiration speaking to you, is that you are also now into the mindset and the wellness of our thoughts. So maybe we'll get you on talking about that again, because as a mindset coach and NLP, you mentioned something too in the morning. One thing I started doing, and it really connected, and I do it all the time when I was doing my NLP coaching, was what was my first thoughts in the morning?
Wow. Now, And you see, they're very important. You see,
Yeah.
and you're of course qualified in it. I am actually qualified as a doctor in gut health, but I'm not qualified in this. But I'm very, very happy. There, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I'm very happy to be doing it because it's so tying in.
yeah.
It's so tying into what the bowel is, and it's that I don't feel that I'm overstepping the mark by trying
No,
to,
you're not.
you know. So I'm really loving it. I love all this, and
I always had that connection from my
yeah,
brain, my thoughts, my mindset, my emotions to my gut.
that's
Always.
wonderful. But a lot of people don't, and I want everybody to know all this because it may this isn't a rehearsal. Like
No.
this is it, and it's a very short time. You know yourself. I read something recently. You know how slow things can go when you're, up all night feeding a baby and you're getting school lunches and everything, and how very fast they go when you get to our age. The years. So it's very cheated. So, this, and you don't want to be your latter years in a nursing home, Gaga. You
No.
want to live a good, wholesome life for as long as you can. So, it's all to play for.
It is.
Confident women, all to
It is definitely.
yeah.
And it's also all to play for in to when women reach to 55 plus. I'm 58 in eight
You're
months.
58, I'm 8, I'm 5 years older than you. So, I mean, we're just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
lovely.
It's lovely. And it's
Yeah.
about embracing. A lot of people have this negative, oh, I'm getting old or I'm old. I'm going, I'm loving my age. I am feeling the best I ever thought.
And say the exact same. And
Yeah,
isn't that wonderful to be able to say? And I'd love more people to be able to say that.
yeah,
It's our time now. It's our time to do things we would have liked to have done, and be good to yourself. And don't sweat. I don't think any of us are ever going to be hungry. We'll
no,
have enough money to buy our food, and this kind of maybe obsession that people have lots of money. They say the billionaire, and they're happy with the billion. They have to have a few billion, but what are they going to do with it? You
you
only need
can't take it with you.
you can't take it with you. You only need enough.
Yeah,
Be comfortable. I know the enough to me is that I love my little trips, and I go off to, like I did to Edinburgh a few weeks ago, and I just kind of not, stay a few nights in a hotel and that. But simple little pleasures, even a night in Dublin is brilliant,
yeah,
or anything at all. Go out for a meal, go to the cinema, but don't be kind of obsessing
no.
about the pounds, shillings, and pence, because we'll all be all right, really, unless Donald Trump does something terrible to us.
I don't think he will.
Which
I don't think he will. I think he'll be fine, and we'll all be fine. And I think, it's really, it's just lovely to be speaking to other women here in Ireland who have the same sort of mindset in helping other women, and as our mindset and our bodies are, well, of course they're connected, it's all part, but it's getting that connection, holistic connection, connected to the medical connection within our body is what.
so important. The new science, but it's just so, so, so important
Yeah.
and makes a difference. So thank you so much for inviting me. I
You're
hope it's
very welcome. Dr. AnnMaire Eustace Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to Confident Women Ireland once again.
thank you, Roisin. Thank you.